Last week we got lost in the bowels of the EAST side of the Portland waterfront in hearing about visions and problems on the east side of Portland. Today we take the next extreme and move to the far west, where some of you, I think, may still think that there are cowboys and Indians somewhere out there beyond the Sunset Corridor. I can assure you that Washington County is probably one of the most exciting places in the metropolitan area, and you're going to hear some very exciting things that are happening in that neck of the woods this morning. Our speaker today is Bonnie Hayes. Bonnie is a graduate of Oregon State University and did graduate work at Portland State and the University of Colorado. She has been a speech and drama teacher, I could always use a little help with that, an insurance agent, and a building services title officer, and was elected to the county commission in 1981, or in 1980, and has served since 1981. In 1987, she was elected as chairman of the Board of Commissioners of Washington County and continues in that position today. She also serves on the board of the United Sewerage Agency and on the Service District on Lighting, and has been active in such things as the Private Industry Council, Washington County Roundtable for Youth, Tualatin Valley Economic Development Corporation, and People for Washington County Charities. Washington County is a hotbed of activity in terms of urban growth boundaries and the fantastic growth going on in the Sunset Corridor, transportation issues such as the new proposed bypass and where shall the light rail land if we ever get it through the hills from Portland, and the major issue now facing the county environmentally, cleaning up the Tualatin River. Bonnie has told me that she had the help of Dan Quayle in writing this speech so that it will be balanced and political, to say the least. Will you help me welcome Bonnie Hayes?
I was going to start with a quotation from a politician. It was not Dan Quayle, no matter what it sounds like. I forsook the comfortable code of many of my predecessors, abandoned the unwritten rules, and said something. There are some things that I want to say today. I want to dispel some faulty notions. I want to share a couple of ideas, and I want us to join together and make some things happen. First of all, we've got to figure out what you really know about Washington County. You've heard the statistics: second largest county in the state of Oregon, fast growth, high per capita income, new job starts, new housing starts, highly educated population. Maybe you've even run across some headlines about Washington County having some transportation concerns, maybe even some land use concerns, maybe even some water quality concerns. But your image of Washington County may be that of our high technology industries, or it could be of our agricultural and forestry lands. A couple of you in the audience I know have focused on our wineries. But if it's the people that you're looking at in Washington County, are you thinking of them as your neighbors? Are you thinking of them as civic leaders? Are you thinking of them as our minority populations? Or perhaps our 33,000 residents in Washington County that live below the poverty line? Is Washington County, as somebody told me to respond to this one, is Washington County a parochial entity on the other side of the hill with the cowboys and Indians? Or does Washington County represent what's really going on in Oregon today? I propose that Washington County is much more than the combined perceptions of any of the people in this room. Why? Primarily because much of what Washington County is dependent upon the successes of this region and of the state. We recognize that. We take pride in the same things that Portland and Multnomah and Clackamas counties take pride in: access to the best in cultural activities, recreational opportunities, choices in lifestyles and occupation, a pioneer spirit, a population known for shaping their communities with integrity, ingenuity, and imagination. And we share common hurts, too. The 33,000 people that I mentioned. Our desires to better serve our rapidly growing elderly population. the unmet needs in the areas of public health, mental health, subsidized housing, the safety and education of our residents, basically everything in total, our quality of living. We are the Portland metropolitan area. We're family, the region's family. In fact, in a lot, it's not unlike my own family. I have 3 older brothers. We live within 40 minutes traveling time of each other, and yet we seldom see each other. There are some age differences. By the way, I turn 39 next month. Condolences will be accepted at the end. There's differences in politics. There's occupational differences, difference in interests. But we have a common bond. It's part of our heritage, it's part of work ethic, and it's part shared pride in our accomplishments. And you know what? If any one of us was in need, the others would be there right away. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we need more of in this region. We can't afford to let any one of us be presented with a problem or an issue and have the rest of the region merely sit back and watch. Or worse, to point fingers and feel a little bit superior. If it happens to Portland, sooner or later it's going to happen to Washington County. Like the gang problem. Yes, Washington County's got a problem. If it happens in Washington County, sooner or later it's going to happen in Clackamas County, like basin-wide water quality issues. The list goes on. It's not unlike sibling rivalry. Lull yourself into believing that what's happening to your brother will never really be your problem. Chuckle when somebody suggests that he really deserved it. And smile quietly when your competitive self says that maybe this will put him in his place and give you a little bit extra boost up. You then become the weak link in the chain, and the next problem is guaranteed to be yours. So Washington County wants the region to succeed. We want it, and so we're working on it. Let's start with the fun stuff. Washington County is not known as a tourist destination. Yes, we have a regional park at Hague Lake, 7 very fine wineries, and a very innovative museum, but tourism doesn't leap to your forefront when you think about Washington County. When our voters were asked to support the Oregon Convention Center in Portland, they responded acknowledging how the convention center would be good business for Oregon. And Washington County turned in the highest percentages of yes votes on that measure. Over and above Multnomah County, City of Portland being housed there. Washington County has enjoyed success in business tourism. Some businesses come to take a look at our homegrown industries and come back and launch. Some of them spin off. Our businesses, you know the names. It's NEC, Tektronix, Fujitsu America, FPS, Epson, JAE, Okidata, Solaflex, Metagraphics, Epitope, Intel, Bion, Nike, and I'm not allowed to tell you who's coming next week, but stay tuned. Why are we being successful? How did we get to be successful, and is this success? Well, yeah, it is success, but why is because we are part of the Portland metropolitan region. Secondly, we did work within the system to create an urban growth boundary that does allow for growth opportunities. And third, we acknowledged our shortcomings. Boy, do we have some shortcomings. Mostly in our transportation system, but also acknowledging that government cannot afford, does not have the revenues to provide the infrastructure to make the allowable land ready to go, site ready, if you will. Remember, this is Oregon. I know, things look different here. But this is Oregon, and no new revenue is created or generated in property taxes because of growth. It's amazing how many times we have to say that to people that are so excited about all the growth that's happening, and why do we have to be stingy with our budgets. Cities, counties, schools, special service districts receive no additional income or revenue as a result of growth or increases in assessed valuation. Set that aside for a minute. Why did I spotlight the metropolitan region as the reason for our success? Well, some of my predecessors in Washington County haven't always agreed with that. In fact, they basically thumbed their nose at Portland and the region and, quite frankly, taking a little bit of advantage of you. The attitude was one of self-containment. Fate, it was believed, had placed us close to the positive features of the region, and we had no responsibility for assuring their future existence. It was as if the features of the area existed only for the benefit of Washington County, and with that access, we could go do our own thing. Thank you very much. But if that is the perception of Washington County today, let me bring you up to date. Because we recognize what the others have done for us, and we're reaching out to better assume our part of the partnership. PDC, the Portland Development Commission, has been a major player in recruiting business for our area. Up until now, it's basically we've been saying, thanks. But last year, we entered into a contract with PDC, formally establishing their role in Washington County, working with Washington County government. This year, PDC was an approved budget item for the county, and we're encouraging our cities to do the same, to participate in the value received. We're also investing in the opportunities to be a better partner to the Port of Portland. The Hillsborough Airport is a port facility. The port owns property, land in Washington County, and their decisions affect us. So we need to establish a solid communication base. I'm happy to report that we have such a base. Bob Waddell is extremely accessible and interested in the region in Washington County. And it goes far beyond just his interest in the air show. Speaking of the air show, we've got the air show, we've got hot air balloon races, we've got Beaverton Bite and Night Glow. These are all Washington County events affiliated now with the Rose Festival. And my sincere thanks to the Rose Festival Association for that new partnership, because we are, again, the Portland Metropolitan region. We're proud to participate. Now, those have all been very pleasurable demonstrations of our commitment to the success of the region. But there are a lot of topics that are not fun. Let's start with solid waste. Okay, Washington County didn't get a regional landfill. We have yet to have a regional transfer station. We are creating our own yard debris recycling plan, coordinated with Metro, but it's not Metro's plan. Are we the pristine, spoiled child not wanting to accept our share of the garbage? Prison sightings. The same question could be levied at us because 3 sites in the North Plains area are still on the list relative to a medium security prison. Whether it be prisons or garbage, the answer is the same. To you, to Metro, to the state of Oregon, is this. If a Lulu, locally unacceptable land use, is best sited in Washington County, let us all be a part of the process. Upfront, ownership all the way through. Don't create siting criteria without our input. Don't come in and tell us where the best sites are. Ask us. We live there. We have a couple ideas. Even with super siting authority, an external agency may not know the idiosyncrasies of an area. Watersheds, UGB constraints upon service provision. We even have some strange weather troughs that may affect a decision. Relative to a landfill on Bacona Road, nobody on the decision-making team had ventured to the site during one of our frequent winter snowstorms that basically would incapacitate the area. I know, it doesn't snow in Oregon. If you go high enough, it does. As to the prison sightings outside the UGB, it's my understanding that at least one of the special service districts has a provision that the members inside that service district can vote as to whether that service district shall provide service outside of its boundaries and can deny that privilege. If we're looking at sewer service, to create a plant, a treatment plant, a system for a population of 3,000 may be pretty much cost prohibitive. Don't put us, as fellow government officials, in a position where we have to say no. If you tell us where something's going to be without involving us in the process, and if you missed a factor, again, for lack of that involvement, our only option is to challenge that decision. That is a lot of negative energy that could have been best used to make a constructive and best option decision. Nobody's ever going to be happy with a Lulu. Okay, Maybe Arlington is happy because this, and a couple other places really want the prison too, but the people immediately around the vicinity aren't going to be happy. We're going to have to be the ones to say why you don't have an option to kill a certain necessary requirement for a public facility. So at least let us be there with you instead of being against you. By the way, did you notice something? I'm not telling you that Washington County can't afford to share in the Lulus of the region because it'll hurt our high-tech image, because it'll hurt our economy and our land use values. I didn't say that. I did say if the best possible site is in Washington County, and it very well may be for any of the above, don't disqualify us from the competition, but don't create criteria that will disallow the options of best siting. I have a personal problem with boardmen being disqualified on the first round relative to prison sightings when they have expressed intense interest in having medium security facility in Boardman, but there is one criteria. I'm sorry, you're not within 50 miles of a population center of 30,000 that has disqualified them. Somehow or other, I think we're missing something. Transportation. You know, it was really easy being a regional partner participating in JPAC, the Joint Policy Advisory Committee on Transportation, when we had lots of federal dollars that needed to be divvied up in the region. It's not so easy now. The federal monies have run out, basically. The state hasn't had transportation as its legislative priority for about the last 10 years. No one of us at the table has the resources necessary to be able to meet our own needs. And so when money used to bring us to the table, the lack of money is bringing us there. Washington County comes to the table not asking for the world. Well, maybe we are. But what we're asking for is equity in decisions. Decisions based on need. And here's the catch. It's got to be transportation need. It can't be economic development need that transportation might spur. And it certainly can't be decisions based upon whose turn is it, and it can't be decisions based upon real or perceived political clout. We come to the table also having tried to take care of our own problems locally. We have classified our road system, prioritized our maintenance dollars. We have established programs of responsibility. Existing residents have an obligation to the existing system. Common sense. In 1986, they contributed $27 million toward a 3-year Major Streets and Transportation Initiative program that gave us $60 million in improvements. Property tax dollars. You know how hard those are to get. Our voters maintain a local 1-cent gas tax for roads. Our voters agree that new development must pay for its impact on the system. We have a traffic impact fee, which is a fee-based schedule pool of money to be used for lane expansion, for signalization, for safety improvements necessitated by this growth. We are proponents of efficient and effective transit systems, including light rail. We joined in the legislative support for TriMet funding, including a very politically hot position called Washington County supports the extension of payroll tax to local governments. Try to sell that one. We did. We go one further. Our voters even put up local monies to be used on state highways because they're important to our system. These same state highways may be of secondary or tertiary concern to the state in their system, but they're all we've got. So again, our voters gave us in excess of $8 million, I think it was closer to 11, to be used on state roads within Washington County. I think that we are the only county that has made that kind of investment in operations outside of your own jurisdiction. Water quality, another example of where Washington County comes in first. This time, we're first in the nation to come under the EPA mandated rules on nutrient levels in water bodies. If you've been around, you've heard TMDLs, you've heard chlorophyll, phosphate levels. I've learned a whole new vocabulary. Sucky disc is a real fun one. This is one where the region and the state cannot afford to stay on the sidelines. Everyone will eventually be affected. We need to develop best options again. Weighing carefully timelines, technology, costs, and results. For Washington County, the first round bill, somewhere between $50 and $150 million. If we have to put in a new reservoir to further dilute the nutrients in our Tualatin River, add another $150, maybe $200 million. But add opportunities. Opportunities to create and enhance wetlands and wildlife reserves. Recreational ventures. Quality of life again. Let us make sure that any dollars that go into what we believe must be done relative to water quality, not just in the Tualatin River Basin, but water quality in Oregon, is made as an investment, not just a cost. Again, we need to be involved in the decision-making process. And this time, it's all of us, everybody in this room, not just the government by the basin, wherever that may be. It's everybody. It's Oregon's water. Our commitment to the region goes beyond the individual elements identified, because we're committed to enhancing, not just preserving, the quality of life for our citizens. We're committed also to growth management, despite what you may read in the headlines. Come take a look at the UGB, the urban growth boundary. Drive along West Union Road. Great example of it. Probably one of the most visible examples of the urban growth boundary in the Tri-County area. South side of the road, brand new housing developments. North side of the road, agricultural land, dedicated agricultural land, producing agricultural land. And we require that residents adjacent to same give up their right to remonstrance to farm practices. Sorry, guys, but you want to preserve that which is good, you've got to make sure that it is allowed to be good. Okay, now you're going to say, how about the other part of the headline? Yes, we do allow growth outside the UGB. Why? Because the state goals and rules allow growth outside the UGB. We know that some people take advantage of the rules, meeting the law but violating the intent. And here's where we need help from the state to better define the conditions. Maybe it's work on secondary lands. Maybe it's revisiting the Department of Agriculture's list of what comprises a living wage farm crop. Do 2.5 acres of blueberries, for example, really produce $10,000 of income a year, and does that merit having a farm dwelling on a piece of property? And how long, by the way, are you going to guarantee those blueberries to be in production? We've got some rules, and those are the ones we're living with, but they allow slippage. Managing growth is not just an issue of a boundary. I know we're up in periodic review of the UGB. I know that Metro has garnered a bunch of us to work on the philosophy of growth management within the boundary. And it is a philosophy that we're going to have to deal with, the philosophy of infill, the philosophy of redevelopment. It's a question of which comes first, the land use decision and the implementation of growth, or the transportation implementation based upon growth projections. People question why we can't build roads to the standard that we know is going to be needed and then start issuing the building permits. Good question. Why must transportation always be reactive instead of proactive? Land use planning does precede transportation planning. Revenue, unfortunately, is always the last ingredient in the equation. We need to better educate our citizens as to the processes and involve them up front. It's oftentimes a very bitter pill to those same people that join with us to preserve the integrity of the urban growth boundary when they have to endure traffic congestion and watch the field next door be given up to development because it's inside the UGB and we're trying to contain growth. We must, we can, we will. Growth management's not a mystery. Instead, it's a topic common to all metropolitan areas, not only in the United States, but throughout the world. The same topic is very hot right now in Seattle, but it's also hot in London. The challenge is not so much in regulation. Regulation's easy. All you do is make rules. Challenge is an investment. And I don't mean just add money. Invest in our region with those resources that got us to where we are today, the resources of our citizens. Their integrity, ingenuity, and imagination. Their pioneer spirit. Our pioneer spirit. You know, we're proud. Oregon's done a lot of things first. Let's do it some more. Let's make some things happen, City Club. Here's my list. At the state level, just an easy one. I want you to please work with us and change our system of taxation. You know the arguments about sales tax and property tax going to school support and property tax relief. Well, I want to add the further request that we change the system to allow growth to contribute to local entities' tax bases, to give us the revenue so we can serve that growth. It's real hard to stand up here and say, come on in, everybody, love to have you in Washington County. By the way, that's just X number more people to serve with the same $1 that I've got. So we need to really look into that, to change it, not just to look at it. Also, state agencies. There's a couple of you represented here today. We do appreciate it, Mr. Bothman. I'll revise my comments about ODOT. State agencies and the departments need to start talking together, please. We are so reliant upon EQC, DEQ, ODOT, Transportation Commission, DLCD, LCDC, and yet the frustration is, have you guys ever been in the same room together, state? Pardon me? Have you talked? That is turning around. It is. We are pleased. We've gotten some major commitments to help us out with some administrative rule work that we've never enjoyed before. They are starting to talk, but please help us to help them continue those conversations. Only after the state is unified in their approach can they really be partners with the region, and can we receive the assistance that we need. Speaking of the legislature, we were speaking of the legislature. Dear legislature, please continue your work on equity and human services programs. It's very easy to suggest that, remember everything I said about Washington County, high per capita income, high education, high this, high that, and so forth, to forget the 33,000 people that I've got at poverty level and the needs that are attached to that population. It's not something that can be ignored. We must have equity in dispersal of state shared revenues. The region. My list for the region basically is aimed at Metro. Metro, be a convener, not a regulator that nobody wants. Metro has resources of a technical basis and a person basis that would really be put to best use to bring people together, bring us together, us, the people in the region, to help us make our own regional decisions and policies, and then to help implement them. Metro, don't make policy for us. Don't make decisions for us. And certainly, please, whatever you do, don't make them without us. The same goes for the state. Portland, Multnomah, Clackamas counties, remember, we're family. Acknowledge our differences, but please help us to strengthen our bonds. We do need each other. Maybe it's time we formalized our engagement. Now, I'm not suggesting I'm ready to get married, though. There cannot be a Willamette County until we discuss the dowry. Washington County government has a business plan backed by a financial plan. The plans were embraced by our voters when they gave us an updated tax base in 1986. And you know how hard it is to get an updated tax base. We have a plan for service provision and agreements with our cities and special service district as to our level of service and jurisdiction over any of the service areas. And I would ask Portland and Multnomah and Clackamas counties, do you? We are working with 22 entities that have some degree of authority over the water in the Tualatin River Basin. We will emerge with a management plan, a comprehensive management plan for that resource. This concept may expand into areas of fire protection and public safety. How's everybody else doing? We've combined in our government departments, we've streamlined our organizations, we're committed to contracting for services wherever best value and benefit can be obtained. We are not hung up on permanent employment for the people that work for Washington County. I love my employees dearly, but if somebody can show me a better mousetrap and prove to me that it's a better value for its citizens, thank you very much. We have a nice going-away present for you, employees. That's not very nice to say, but we've had some real good luck with our contracts. In fact, in a number of our areas, our own people are required to compete for contracts. We have a higher level of competency because of that and productivity than we've ever had before. It's good, healthy business. Hello, the rest of the region. Are you out there? We are no longer the government of last resort. Washington County county government has accepted that traditional role of, if nobody else can do it, lump it on the county. We've said, sorry, if it doesn't fit our business plan, we probably aren't going to be able to accept that challenge, because we made a commitment to our voters to live within this tax base for 5 years. We're going to try to get 6 out of it. We're absolutely guaranteeing 5. And to take on additional responsibility without revenue is not the way you run a good operation. Now, I don't know where the other governments are on these issues, and it's not necessarily their fault or mine, because in this information age, I can't get any news about the rest of the region. City Club, you want a challenge? I see 2 representatives of the Oregonian over there. Don't let them out of the room without talking to them. I would ask that you convince our only regional newspaper that Washington County would benefit if it had access to Clackamas County news. I can't get the Southeast... I can't get the Southeast Metro section of the Oregonian unless I actually travel to a geographic dispersal point. And it's not just the Southeast. I'd like to know how Gresham is doing in its redevelopment program based upon the activity brought in by light rail. I'd like to know what Lake Oswego is saying about the Unified Sewerage Agency. If indeed we have a regional newspaper, please don't regionalize it to the point where we don't know about each other. I want to know. Sounds like one of the advertisements for the National Enquirer, doesn't it? Curious people want to know. The newspapers, all of the media, are opinion makers besides being conveyors of news. And I would hope that everyone in the region would have access to the news before the opinions are created. I guess that's all. No big deal, right? City Club? No problem. I just want you to help us change the state taxing system to push for a higher level of partnership with all the governments affecting the region and to assure the utilization of information technology. And then, let's get out of the way. If we do have what I believe exists in this region, the integrity, ingenuity, and imagination of our citizens will integrate with our resources and we'll all succeed. Thanks for letting Washington County be a part of the Portland metropolitan area.
Thank you, Bonnie, for that exciting review of what's going on in Washington County, and I'm sorry about the endorsement from the Oregonian in your next campaign, but we now, that probably is one committee we can form right here with this group that's present. We have a microphone in the center of the room for those of you who are bold enough to ask your questions verbally. As I mentioned at the outset, there are forms on your table for written questions. Please hold them up so the staff can spot you. And the privilege of the first question goes to our board host today, Tony Zenker.
Thank you. Since ODOT is in the room, I would like Bonnie's opinion on the West Side Freeway bypass proposal.
Yes, next. As I mentioned in my speech, land use planning does precede transportation planning. And I also mentioned that major strides have occurred recently in the communication and work coordination between ODOT and DLCD, the Division of Land Use Conservation Development staff to LCDC. We have, through the cooperative efforts of JPACT, We have a West Side Corridor transportation plan. And in a plan analysis, you're going to find that what exists isn't enough. And what is proposed is merely that at this time, a proposal. On a transportation plan, you'll see this gray swath going through in a proposed study area. A proposed study area because we agree with the concept of land use planning preceding transportation planning. We know, there is no doubt in our mind, that we need another link north-south. We don't know where, how big, necessarily even when. I'd like to think of it in terms of yesterday, but that's not going to work. In order to move ahead, we needed one of two things: go out and do it ourselves and charge forth, or have somebody show us what the rules are in order to proceed. Well, there weren't any rules. LUBA sent back an opinion specifically stating that. Congratulations, we don't think you did it right, but sorry, we can't find any rules for you to follow in order to do it right. So work on it, would you? And again, our understanding is that the administrative rules that will allow us procedure, definitive procedure to move ahead, will be adopted by January of 1990. We can't wait too much longer than that. In fact, I would ask, if you are interested in that subject, to please assist us in affirming that those will be adopted in 1990. From then on, once we have procedure in place, then everybody that has a challenge to the concept can come forward and talk about the merits. Up until now, we've been challenged on procedure. So, what do I think about the West Side bypass proposal? I think it is very, very necessary. However, we've got a long way to go and many, many steps in between before we are able to articulate exactly what that communication link is. In my fondest dreams, it's called having bus express lanes, light rail, right-of-way guarantee for future extension from hopefully the Hillsborough terminal of West Side Light Rail down to the Tigard Tualatin area. We would have the state or federal government, we're working on both concepts, purchase the development rights along this road so that it could not be developed, could not become an excuse for extension of the urban growth boundary or sprawl or any sort of mismanaged development. Use that land, whether it be for working a contract with the, let's say, with DEQ. We have to take revisit the concept of what effluent can be used for in the irrigation of crops. California uses effluent to a higher degree on edible crops than Oregon does. If we're going to be serious about water quality, if we're going to be serious about the ways to use low technology and cure that issue, why don't we assist DEQ in looking at that? We can also set aside certain areas, work through there. As wetland observatories, we've got some very sensitive areas in that swath, very, very sensitive areas. I'm not sure that berming will necessarily cause or prohibit the exhaust fumes and oil vapors from potentially contaminating a grape harvest in that area. I do know we've got Tonkin scablands, and I would guarantee you we are not going to be in that area. There's so many issues involved in that swath. That is why we want to move forward as quickly as possible, get into preliminary engineering, and finally being able to if you will, relieve about 300 people who are sure that it's going to wipe out their bedroom or their harvest or their something, and get it down to where we say, here is the line, here is the laneage, here's what we're going to be able to do to protect, conserve, promote, and then have the discussions based upon that, as opposed to having to deal with the fears and lots of misconceptions right now about what it could be and what it should be.
You said that the state departments need to be talking with each other more. Are you and other Washington County commissioners talking with your counterparts in Multnomah and Clackamas County? And what are your views on the importance of that contact and interchange?
Yeah, what do you want to know about Clackamas and Multnomah County? I got some good ones. Yes, we are. It's really hard to do anything during a legislative session except for try to be at the legislature. However, while we were down there, we also had some great opportunities to fill each other in. Clackamas County, do you realize what you've got in this region? You've got Rena Kuzma as the elected executive for Metro. You've got Darlene Hooley as the chairman of Clackamas County. Gladys McCoy as the chairman of Multnomah County. And Bonnie Hayes as the chairman of Washington County. I mean, do you realize what trouble we could get you into? But we talk a lot. With the Tri-County area is District 10 relative to the Association of Oregon Counties, and we commit ourselves to meeting quarterly to exchange information on a formal basis. The informal contacts we have are numerous. Rick Bauman comes out to the office and we talk about structure of government relative to potential charter review for Multnomah County. Darlene Hooley came out and took a look at our contracting policies, what we really do with the private sector in Washington County. I go to them and try to figure out where in the world, how many different places in Oregon City Clackamas County gets to operate. Multnomah County, we're talking about our community corrections programs. There's a lot of exchange and massive value there. I hope that answered the question. Yep, important.
Bonnie, Bob Wheel,
Hi,
member.
Bob. Yes.
Bonnie, having observed and participated in local government the last 10 years, I'm very reassured that you tell me Washington County feels part of the regional family. My question's on a local level. I'm sure you as a county official have very strong opinions, which I'd like to hear, on the problems between Beaverton and Hillsborough as to who gets the territory, and also the problem between Portland and Beaverton. Would you as a Washington County official acquiesce in having a large chunk of Washington County become part of the city of Portland?
Do we have a choice? All right, let's talk about annexation. Washington County received an awful lot of positive strokes when we had our land use plan and large chunks of industrial land available in the unincorporated urban area. And we got business, and I gave you a list of a number of those entities that came and developed dealing only with Washington County. And I think it says in the Bible, and it was good. And it was so good that it became very valuable. And all of a sudden, a couple of our cities said, I wonder what we could do with that property. And our citizens started coming saying, hey, keep the wolf is at our door. We choose not to be part of Beaverton. We choose not to be part of Hillsborough. Protect us, protect us. And we're going, let's not talk about protection. Let's talk about your choice. You have the ultimate say-so about whether you choose one city over the other, or you choose to remain unincorporated. But we have to show you, we have to make, we're not going to promise you the world. We have to tell you that we are going to provide services countywide. And we can't give you more police protection, better road maintenance than anybody outside the urban growth boundary or anybody even in the cities, because we serve everybody. So in our business plan is the concept of options. We have established 2 special service districts under the Boundary Commission's authority and at the direction of the voters for the inside the urban growth boundary outside of incorporated cities. One for enhanced sheriff patrol. We have 64 more deputies on the streets in that area. And one for urban road maintenance, which was not funded, but it's still on the books. That was an option. We said, look, if you want something more, you don't have to go to a city in order to get it. You could, if your homeowners association is organized, you can contract with a city, you can contract with a county, you can contract with a private concern to get some service. If you want to go to a city, let's make sure that you've got the information in order to make that decision. We developed a worksheet that was sanctioned by all of our cities, including City of Portland, that gives each individual a scorecard. It gives them absolute figures in order to make comparisons. It tells them what to look for on their tax statement in order to say, where you are now and what's it going to cost next. A review of what services are available in any city unit over and above what you've got in the county. And over and over again, it was called, this is aggressive neutrality. I cannot tell any of my people to go to Hillsborough instead of Beaverton, to go to Beaverton instead of Portland. That's not my job. My job is to make sure that everybody has access to the information so they can make the decisions. I admit I was a little chagrined when we got out of the majority of our industrial base work through the annexations of Hillsborough and Beaverton, but it's okay. It's still Washington County. The annexations, again, as long as they are the product of people instead of lines, we'll be okay. It really will be. So again, our role, we've tried a little bit of mediation with Beaverton and Hillsborough. There is not that much difference. They're not doing headbutting and collisions as much as people would perceive. They would like very much to know what is in store in their future, wouldn't all of us? But they're working with people too. So I think we'll be okay. Ray.
Ray Polani, member of the City Club. Commissioner, you know, it seems that the main issue in Washington County and for that matter in Portland, in Oregon, in the nation, in fact in the world, is what kind of growth. And probably the most important thing is some kind of growth that is sustainable for the future, some kind of growth that respects the needs of the future generations. In Washington County, you're thinking of a West Side bypass and very vigorously pushing for it as a response to some overutilized existing roads. And yet you have definitely an underutilized railroad running north-south parallel to the 217 corridor. You said before that Oregon should be different, that we should be pioneering. What about a private-public partnership between the private railroads and the public needs, utilizing this underutilized railroad that goes from Tualatin to Tigard to Beaverton to Hillsborough and perhaps even north to the Columbia River corridor in Portland? What about that? What are the plans in Washington County and at Metro for looking seriously at this public-private partnership?
My first reaction, Ray, is let's try to convince the railroads to be partners, and that'll be the first step. Railroads have not been real communicative when we've talked about projects along 185th and Baseline, trying to figure out, excuse me, but are you going to abandon this right-of-way and this linkage of track? Would you let us know before it costs us a whole bunch to do the road improvement at that intersection? We're trying to get information about whether the Southern Pacific alignment along TV Highway was going to be available to us for light rail extension to have an optional route as opposed to just the Burlington Northern route. It was like pulling teeth to get that information. And I'm not sure that we really got a definitive answer. It was called, we ran out of time. Public and private partnerships are the business of Washington County as far as I'm concerned. Rail, whether it be light rail, whether it be heavy rail, whether it be, again, passenger use or heavy produce, if you will, all have a definite place in the transportation system of Washington County. If we do have opportunities, we do not want to lose those opportunities. But similarly, we're not going to place an opportunity at the top of the priority list if it doesn't meet one of our priority crises in transportation. So I can't suggest that we're going to be able to go steamrolling ahead in all of the avenues available to us. You're very, very aware of limited pots of money, and I appreciate your proffering the public-private partnership. And again, yes, we would entertain with open arms any opportunities, but that doesn't mean we're necessarily going to be able to channel funding directly into them right now. Thank you. Hi, Mike.
Commissioner, hi. My name is Mike Hauk, and I noted that you said you felt one of the roles, or most important roles that Metro can play is as a convener. And one of the best examples of that, in my opinion, right now is the regional park study that's ongoing. That's definitely gone into a natural resource bent, because there are a lot of people in local jurisdictions and park districts and the citizens who are concerned about those natural resources, especially streams and rivers and other resources that cut across jurisdictional boundaries, and that we need to get a handle on that as a means for achieving what you described earlier as a quality of life sorts of concerns. In various circumstances in Washington County, when I've been discussing this particular project, I've received a fair amount of skepticism from some of the public, but from some elected officials on Metro's role in that sort of area of natural resource inventory and management. I'd be curious to know what your personal conviction is about Washington County's participation and support of that effort, and perhaps the rest of the commissioners, if you can speak for them.
I can't speak for the rest of the commissioners, Mike, you know that. Convener versus regulator is the big issue. And I'm sorry to say that in whether it be the solid waste issue, which I don't know if there would have been another way to do it, but now also in the urban growth management that we're looking at, the choice with Metro is to create a functional plan. Some would say it's the velvet hammer, some would say it's a club. It's no longer a matter of bringing us together so we can create policy and implement it. It's a matter of, we'll let you come to the table and work on it, but ultimately we will make you do it if you don't do it. And I'm real hesitant to see if that is the mentality, the mode of operation of Metro, that it would extend into regional parks planning. I'm hoping it does not. That's my personal skepticism. Is it seems to be the instrument of choice for Metro right now in any of its major planning efforts, is that ultimately there'll be a functional plan, and thou shalt is the cue. Relative to my desires, you presented at one of our CPO meetings, our Citizen Participation Organization meetings, a fantastic concept of regional wetlands, all tied together, so that if you were of a mind to, and that far exceeds my interest in hiking, but if you're in a mind to, you could do a 10-hour hike and really traverse some country, and all within a common purpose, a common territory, common boundary. And for the regional parks, we're not very good at parks in Washington County government. Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District is very, very good at parks. Okay, I saw another note of skepticism on your face. Cities have park divisions and park bureaus. The county, we have a couple pieces of property, one of them a partnership with the Isaac Walton League, and developed only because of them, and then of course Hague Lake, Scoggins Reservoir as a park. We believe that there's a lot more potential to those resources than what we have the capability or the expertise to enter into at this time. That's why we're now developing a mini comprehensive plan for Hague Lake. But trying to focus on your question about skepticism or approachability or commitment to the regional park study, we have probably inappropriately deferred a lot of that to our staff. I can't tell you exactly where we are on that as an organization. I would suggest, though, that a majority of the board is very, very interested in moving forward as quickly as possible with that element. Now that we've gotten through some crisis issues, we can start talking more about aesthetics.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Grace.
Grace Cronican, member.
This is great. So far I've known everybody. This is wonderful. No, I didn't stack the questions, trust me.
I wonder if you could talk a little bit about education, higher education. The club has had a few speakers and has done some internal consideration of what to do with PSU and the lack of a major university in the Portland area. And I know that high-tech has had, the high-tech industry has had a great deal of success with OGC. How do we make PSU a better place and not threaten OGC, and what kind of a partnership is there, and how does Washington County view PSU and how to proceed?
Okay. Washington County is adamantly supportive of educational efforts. You'll see it not only in our residents and their willingness to put the dollars in their tax bills and send them in, but also in the numbers and diversity of opportunities that you'll have in Washington County. Yes, we do have Portland Community College, Rock Creek. As Grace mentioned, the Oregon Graduate Center, OGC, and accompanying Science Park. We have special programs, OCATE. We have two other acronyms that I can never remember at the moment. We have Saturday Academy. We have lots of things. We have public schools. We have private schools. We have a four-year university called Pacific University in Forest Grove, a liberal arts college. And I hope that this weekend you'll get out there to look at the Coeur d'Alene. Of course, Coeur d'Alene, you're right, Concours, yeah, right, and I'm going to Idaho, too. Okay, another little point. Washington County government decided that, remember when I said first thing that leaps to your mind is not tourism as Washington County's regional strategy? We decided that it's fine to participate in the Oregon Tourism Alliance, but if we wanted to get a handle on the economy of Washington County, we're going to have to get together in an organized, comprehensive planning endeavor. We have done that. We're a year into it. We've got probably another 18 months to go before it's finalized. The three elements that are being examined intensely are education, public safety, transportation, and then finally communities. And not necessarily in that order, but those are the three fundamental ingredients that everyone involved in this effort felt had to be in place and really polished if there was going to be a future for the economy in Washington County. We're talking about the need for an educated workforce. Yes, there is a major concept attached to light rail coming out to Hillsborough is that we'll be able to import some workforce. We're running out of people. We've got more jobs than we've got people right now. And that sounds like something I'd be real proud to say, but I've got some companies that are saying, you know, unless you fix this, we're going to have to start talking about relocation. And it's not relocation within Oregon. So, yes, the support for the education system, the support for trying to work with the big decisions. I don't have right now access to the decision makers in the Board of Higher Education to assist in the Portland State versus the Oregon Graduate Center versus the U of O and Oregon State. I wish we did. We've got so much need and so many opportunities to help clarify the issues based upon the real world, and yet we're getting some of the cooperation within our boundaries. PCC does an excellent job of cooperating with OGC, with the schools. We also have alternative schools. I forgot to mention them. There's more conversations going on, but I think the cost of education is going to be the final deciding factor as opposed to what we'd like to see in our perfect system, and that's really sad. I guess my message to the Board of Higher Education would be the same as my message in my speech. If it's going to be a cost, let's make sure it's an investment. You're done. I'm done.
Thank you very much, Bonnie, for a terrific presentation.